We are back. All right. Welcome again, ladies. It's an all-ladies affair on the program this afternoon. All right, let's get into it as quickly as we can. We're starting with cross-dressing. Is cross-dressing an African thing? Surprisingly, if you do not know, in a lot of African countries, men dressing as women is actually a thing because it's part of their traditional beliefs, or they do that during very important periods, you know, to celebrate some certain festivals and all of that. A good example is the Baga dance from the Guinea coast of Africa, in which a group of men dress as women and they imitate the movement of women, you know, the erotic twisting of the hips, and sometimes they even suggest intimate intercourse, you know, with male bystanders and stuff like that, and it's done in many other African countries. Now, these days, we have a lot of people who call themselves transgenders, whatever name they go by, but some just simply stay on the fence, you know, and they just prefer, you know, to dress the way they like. Sometimes you see a man dressing as a woman, or a woman trying to be like a man, and all of that. Now, this conversation is currently ongoing on social media as to whether cross-dressing is an African thing. This is because an old video of a Nigerian cross-dresser from Imo State started trending online and has been causing a buzz, which is why we're discussing it on the buzz. Anyways, the man, identified as Arias Carter, was said to be a traditional musician way back in the 1970s and is believed to be one of the few cross-dressers who made it into mainstream media as at that time. Reports claim he was a civil servant, you know, before he disappeared into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 7 months and 7 days, and when he came out, he claimed that the gods had bestowed on him supernatural powers, and he began to dress, to walk, to talk and act like a woman, and he was quite popular. A lot of people are saying he's originally from Rivers State, but he lived all of his life in Imo State, which is why he's identified with Imo State. He performs before kings and royalty back in the days until sadly he passed away. If you haven't seen that video yet on social media, let me do you the honors by bringing it to you, right? Let's watch Arias Carter do his thing. Then we'll come back and talk about cross-dressing. Join us again.
One Easterner who has undergone considerable change in the post-war years is Arias Carter. After 7 months and 7 days in isolation, he threw up his job as a male civil servant to become a female entertainer. He plays a thumb piano, which he always carries with him, acting the traditional role of entertainer of audiences from street urchins to royalty.
Like much Igbo music in the East, my song is tinged with some bitterness and black humor. It's about the most miserable man in the world, who suffered because he was smaller than anyone else. But one day, at the market, he sees a man even tinier than he is. After that, he is happy. Happy to know there is someone even worse off than himself.
machine. Odola.
Well, welcome back. All right, so that was Arias Kata doing his thing back in the days, and looks like he was accepted, you know, for whatever he decided to represent and all of that. So these days we see a lot of other young people doing that. Top on the list is Bobrisky. We have so many others, J Boogie, whatever he's called, and then there's this other guy. I don't store those names in my head, but we all see it all over the internet and all of that. And sometimes a lot of us frown at it, you know. But tracing this way back, you know, in history, it suggests that perhaps we've always had this with us as Africans. So we're asking the question: is cross-dressing actually an African thing?
Well, I don't want to see it that way, really. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it as an African thing, because this is just one out of millions of people.
Exactly.
Right in the East, because it's just one out of all. And from his own perspective, he said he encountered one superpower somewhere in the wilderness. So he came out to dare to be different from every other person in the society. And for me, I also want to see that that was probably his selling point. He was a musician. That is his identity then as a musician. I'm sure he came out with that identity. That doesn't make it like it's the normal thing among the Africans. I also know that there are some parts of, I remember those days growing up, I used to see these people they call Agwes, the Fulanis, whereby you have the men wearing jewelries and all that, with big earrings and all that. That also doesn't make it an African thing, because that's just a tribe in Africa. If we are saying it is an African, it means all over Africa. That is what is obtainable. It is not our culture. Now, if we're talking about, okay, like, for instance, the Benin that I came from, I know when they want to do this cultural dancing, the men, especially in the palace, they wear skirt, they tie wrapper, they wear skirt. I also don't want to see it as also even the Benin culture to a very large extent, because it's not like everybody does that. If we're seeing it as an African culture, it means that is our way. That is what we do. Normally, it's normal for us. But if you also look at even this guy that we just watched, I'm sure then there are people that will also frown at what he was doing. It's not everybody that will accept it. If everybody accepted it, maybe though everybody sitting with him, they would have dressed the same way he dressed. So I think it's just an individual thing. Okay. It has been individual thing, and it remains individual thing.
Okay, Chioma, let me ask you, daring to be different, is there anything wrong in that?
No, really. Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with daring to be different, because like you rightly said, daring. It takes a lot to be daring.
Of course, it takes guts.
You can't be just, to be just the only person looking different, standing different, and then the difference is in such a very different way, if I can say that. You know, there's no way you won't get the attention. So it's not something that's easy. But you see, going back to what she said, before now, they've said, yeah, it's not an African thing. But thinking of things I've read and researched in recent times, trust me, it's been in our African tradition and culture for years. But if you don't research, you won't know. I didn't know until I got curious about it. And I got curious because it's becoming quite common. Finding a lot of young men coming on social media looking funny and trying to identify with the female. Yeah, but it's true.
And then you're a designer as well. You know, fashion these days, fashion trends is towing that way.
Yeah, even those who are not cross-dressing, who are exactly dressing like females,
but then they're different elements of exactly.
You know,
so that's what I wanted to say.
Handbags.
That's what I wanted to say.
We are attaching crystals on their clothes now. Things we didn't used to do.
I saw a guy the other day wearing a brooch with sequins and
Yeah.
stones.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
please just give this to me. This is a woman's thing.
You see, that's the area I also wanted to talk about now.
Okay.
Because I still want to see it as an African thing. Because when you go to places like the Fiji Island, you go to Scotland, you see there are men wearing skirts.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean, for me, I still see it as a Scottish thing. I still see it as a Fiji Island thing,
But not an African.
Not an African thing,
for you.
because
Okay.
I don't want to see it that way.
there are
Because
some-
if we have other part of the world that does it, and it's not like it's tied to them. Like I said earlier, I believe, yes, it has been there. You understand? But it's not like,
But it is not
the
our way.
way it was even there then.
Okay.
It's not like even a
It's not
cross-dressing,
our
so to
way.
say then. It's not even like a cross-dressing, so to say then. Because
Yeah.
they wear skirt, as men wear skirt on suit.
That's the cross.
It's not like it's a woman thing. Just like we wear
What
trousers.
of where you have a tradition where boys are made to dress up in female clothing for a particular ceremony, and it's their culture, and a tradition where you have girls dressed up in boy clothing for a particular ceremony, it's their tradition, and that's in Africa.
Okay.
That happens in Africa.
All right, we have seen a moral person talk, a designer talk. I want to hear it from the angle of a tradition.
tradition,
please.
thank
Yes,
you.
please. Yeah.
In a traditional way, there are some deities that will make them dress like that. They can start that occasion, it can last like a week, 2 weeks. During that time, they will be dressing like that. And they can't go out with it like that. After the occasion is
go back
off,
to
it's
normal.
off.
Okay.
They come back to normal. And in the royalty, where you see them wearing skirts, you will know for sure that this is royal. Where they will even have the beads on their legs there. Then this will show them they are representing everything, including female and males. But these days, you know, our younger people, they are going at length of even going into transformation,
Cosmetic,
everything.
whatever, yes.
Even if they find their way, they want to change their genital
They do.
into another thing. So that one is not tradition. The tradition will not go beyond during that time. And now we keep on exposing day by day. Even in traditional realm, we keep on exposing day by day. There will be a particular area you will want to do some deities where you will just tie wrapper on your waist. We don't want to be doing that again, because you have an educated person in a traditional way. You want the so-called person to tie wrapper like this. Who will marry such person? Some of them, majority of them, are losing their marital life due to that exercise. So they don't do such
So
thing
even
again.
traditionally, you are beginning, you know,
Of course,
up the game,
because
or to go with the
we
trend.
don't want the whole thing to die off.
Okay.
If you don't upgrade, your children will not take it.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for me, it is not an African idea. It's not
It's
an
not.
African system. In fact, it's abomination. Let us just take it like that.
Okay, Chama, you have something more to say.
This part of us saying it's an abomination is cracking
Yes,
me
now.
up.
You don't think it's an abomination?
I know you won't take it because it's still part of your field.
See, I'm just a very liberal kind of person. I'm
Okay.
not exactly into judging people on what they choose.
Yes,
to do.
oh, exactly. We are
Because
just saying
I
it here
believe
too.
that where one person's right ends, that's where the other person's own starts
Alright.
from. So I'd like to. It's not like I would like my son to be that way. I'll tell him.
I was just going to ask you a question, but I'm happy that you exposed yourself. Because I was going to ask you, if any of your children, you know, maybe one of your boys should start dressing like a girl, would you be so
No, but
liberal-minded?
the thing is, you know, sometimes this thing has to do a lot with background. If you trace the background of these
Exactly.
persons who are trying to become transgenders
Exactly.
and change their look and cross-dress, it started from somewhere. Their mothers probably had noticed that from childhood.
But did nothing about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, in some cases, maybe a situation where a woman has always wanted a girl child, and she has all boys, or she has just one child, a boy or something, and she desperately wants a girl. You find that like I've seen someone who said, oh, because I did shopping for a girl, then I get a boy. I'm not going to waste these things. Then she starts dressing out.
Dressing the boy as
You are right.
You have to wear those clothes.
You're starting that child on a wrong foot. He grows up, by the time he's 1, he already understands what he's wearing. And he's used to knowing that his mom dresses in his skirts. Then by the time he's 15, you're telling him it's not right to wear girly clothes. I mean, that's...
Or maybe you have a situation where you have an only boy in the midst of girls,
and
he's watching the sisters doing all the makeup, and you know, he could be influenced.
Exactly.
And all of that. But then, you know, let's go back to the issue of parenting in this case. Because I want to use myself as an example once again. Well, for God knows what reason, my boys are all hairy, but my girls were all bald. I don't know, you know. So, so when my sons were like really young, like babies, you know, there was hair everywhere. My husband has a lot of hair too, so you know, I used to plait their hair because I'm like, I can't waste all this hair. So I plait, and then I'm going on the road and people are like, oh, she's so pretty. I'm like, no, it's a boy, you know. But I know where to stop. You know, by the time you're going to like a year old, the hair comes off, you know, and all of that. So you want to grow up and have hair, that has to be when you're an adult, you know. So parenting has a role to play in this. True. But then morally, is there anything morally wrong?
Oh, yes.
If a guy decides, I prefer feminine clothes, I'm more for instance, I am very comfortable wearing trousers, jeans, everything trousers, I'm comfortable. So can't a guy be very comfortable
Wearing a skirt?
How can a guy even be comfortable wearing skirts? Why are you comfortable wearing jeans and trousers?
Can a guy be very comfortable, you know, and because he's very comfortable decide, you know what, I prefer to wear skirts. Can't I?
You know, Patience, let me tell you this. A lot of these people that does trans dressing, it comes from their mind. It comes from do I use the word complex problem? Some of them feel, I don't like to be a man. I want to be a woman. I prefer to be a woman. So I have to change myself to look like a woman. You see, at that point, they are not proud of who they are. It's like sometimes people see me and they're like, ah, you are not a woman, you are a man. Maybe the way you do things, your strength and all that. And I always correct them right there. I am a woman, proudly woman, and I'm proud to be a woman. I love being a woman. Don't ever use that word, you're a man, for me, because I'm not a man and I can never be a man. You understand?
I do.
So I believe when you really don't have that, maybe self-esteem problem, when you have that self-esteem problem, there is the possibility for you to want to be somebody else. It's time for you wanting to be somebody else.
Let me direct that question to you, Barbarian Marshall. Now, some of these people, you know, who go through this sort of thing, they come up with the excuse. I'm using the word excuse carefully here because to them it's a very valid reason. You know, but they come up with the excuse that is how they were born. And we have seen instances where some boys can be very effeminate. It's a boy, but maybe he has a feminine voice, does things like a girl. You know, there are people who are actually born that way.
Exactly.
So in that regard, do you still judge a person who feels, I might look like a man, but inside of me, I am a woman? Is there anything really like that? Can somebody be born that way?
Yes, we do see them like that. Even some are even still complaining that right inside their system, they are still feeling the feminine system in their system. Fine, that one is between them and God. But when we want to talk precisely, it is unfair to be a man and to transform to a woman. But if you have this idea or the iota of you can talk like a woman, do you know all these people are using it just to make money? When they find something in their system, they say, okay, with this, money can be coming out. Because that's the way I see it, like poverty making them to go into that level. Where you can change, then they can see you have your nail. People will like to see such person. as we do go to parties, occasions like that, we tie gele. When they see man tying that gele, you will see all of us lying down for the man to tie the gele for us. When the woman is there doing, the woman can have just 2-3 people that will stay with her. We just want to have man doing gele. Oh, let's go there. So this will make the man get more money than the woman. This has what been the mentality of all these people doing. That's the way I see it.
Okay.
I don't complain, I don't talk, I don't comment on it when I see that. This is they are making money, Jare.
Who else? Who thinks differently?
Well, if one look at it morally, I would say it's not right. And it will be difficult to look at it morally without bringing in the religious aspect, but I wouldn't want to even go into that because that's an entirely different matter. Because we went in that direction, would say it's totally wrong, we'll strike it out.
Exactly.
Yes. But like she rightly said, yes, the fact that someone is born with effeminate qualities or gifts doesn't mean
you should alter everything completely. Okay.
Yeah, if you've got a voice that's feminine, that's fine. You can, like she rightly said, use it for a business. It's your niche. If you can sing with it, sing with it. If you can act with it, act with it. There are roles that would look for your nice voice, but you don't have to now go from your natural you, God made you, into an entirely different person. I'm sure God had a good reason for making us male and female.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no mistake there. All right, so I think we've spent much time on this cross-dressing thing. Talking about it is a fad, is a trend these days. Some people just think it's cool, you know, a guy looking like a woman. And I don't know how it happens, but they do it better.
Yeah.
Have you seen those guys do makeup?
Don't even go.
I'm ashamed of myself.
They do makeup.
They do it better.
They do it better.
They do it better than most of
Very,
women.
very
I don't know what it is, yes, but whatever it is, we are Africans, okay? A man should be a man, a woman should be, I mean, let's have that clear-cut distinction. Okay? Guys, stick to your pants, I mean your trousers and shirts, and leave
And it's beautiful to be
women.
a man.
Of
really.
course.
Just
It's cool to be a
beautiful.
guy.
Yeah.